Hey there guys, in today's video I wanted to talk about assessing parrot toy parts for safety. So this video is going to cover both making toys and picking out toy parts that are safe when you give them to your bird, but also checking them on a daily basis to make sure they stay safe for your bird. So if that's something you guys are interested in seeing, you want to make sure to stick around. That's going to be coming up right after this. Hey there guys, this is Jack over at Hi Red Bird, where I am tirelessly working to find new ways to make the keeping of exotic animals and pets more exciting, more affordable, and ultimately more enjoyable. And for today's video, I wanted to talk about assessing parrot toy parts for safety, because it's a really important thing to do. Now I do have my green sheet conure widget with me. My goal was that he could showcase some of the toy parts that he likes playing with, but realistically with the camera setup, with the light, all of this is very different for him because he doesn't do videos on a regular basis. Realistically, he's going to look at me condescendingly and refuse to interact with anything. And that's fine too. It's still enriching for him to experience something different. So the first thing I wanted to mention when we're talking about parrot toy parts and picking them out for your bird, there is no such thing as a bird-safe parrot toy part. And by that I mean there is no such thing as a toy part that is safe for every single bird. There are so many different birds that we interact with. They have so many different abilities. They come in different sizes, different strengths, different levels of intelligence, different beak strengths. All of those things are going to have an impact on what goes into providing things for your bird. And I would even say that birds of the exact same species can have drastically different necessities when it comes to their toy parts. Some birds may be inclined to chew and swallow things they shouldn't. Maybe they can't have those items, but another bird of the same species is perfectly fine with them. So the main thing to remember here is you want to make sure you are observing your bird and you are paying attention to what you are giving them, and that what you are giving them is safe for that bird. So the first thing I wanted to talk about, really easy to mention, is things that are toxic. You don't want to give your animal things that are toxic, obviously, because that could be very bad. In fact, I would say there's no instance I could see where giving your animal something toxic could potentially be good. So toxic things are going to come in a variety of different shapes and forms. If you're giving your animal plants, edible plants, browse, cuttings, you want to make sure that it's a non-toxic plant. You want to make sure that it hasn't been treated with pesticides, fungicides, anything that could pass a residual toxicity on to your bird, because that could be really bad. Now you're also going to want to pay attention to things like toy parts. Here I have a dyed wheel. This was made by a parrot toy company specifically with the idea of making parrot toy parts. So this is dyed in a way that is really safe. But I know some people like to do things with things like children's blocks, maybe buying lumber from other sources. If it's painted, if there is something that your animal could be eating that is, potentially toxic, that could be a very real problem. If you use leather strips, some ways of treating leather can have an issue for your birds. So you want to make sure you're paying attention to what goes into those items. Now you also want to make sure that you aren't providing something that is an ingestion hazard. Widget, thank you so much for demonstrating that right now. As you guys can see, Widget is very interested in chewing on the seam of my shirt. And right now, while I am supervising him, I'm going to say that is okay. His beak strength isn't such that I'm worried about him chewing through the shirt. Obviously, since it's 3 inches away from my face, I can see what he is doing. I can move him away if it starts to become an issue, if he starts to pull that apart. But different birds are going to have different levels of interest when it comes to tearing things apart and potentially swallowing them. And there are a lot of materials that can be potentially hazardous if swallowed. Plastics are going to be one of the biggest issues. They can cause things like impaction. Your bird swallows them, they're not able to pass them. That means everything else in their digestive system isn't able to keep moving. It can be really problematic. And there's a lot of different things that you can use in terms of plastics, but you need to make sure you're paying attention to them. There are toys that are made out of things like drinking straws. Straws are obviously a very, very thin plastic. They're really easy to shred. Some birds really enjoy them. If they are shredding them, dropping the pieces on the ground, that's one thing. If they are shredding them and potentially eating the pieces, that could be another issue entirely. Things like craft beads or pony beads. These, believe it or not, actually come in all different kinds of thicknesses and durabilities. Not all beads are going to be created the same. Those are going to be a lot more durable than the straws, and different birds may like to play with them. I've seen umbrella cockatoos that like to hold them and just manipulate them. They won't chew on them at all, but they like to play with them. I've seen Quaker parrots that can snap them in seconds. So pay attention to what you are giving your bird. You don't want there to be something that is a potential ingestion hazard. Now, the next thing to think about is if it's an entrapment hazard. This is usually going to be an issue after you've already given a toy, but it is something to think about as well. So there's a couple of ways that your birds can get trapped in things. So here, I'll give you guys an example. One thing I have here, this is a piece of natural wood. This is actually a piece of birch. Right now, this is something I would be very safe, very comfortable giving to an animal. But I live on the Gulf Coast. Most of my animals have access to outside areas, full sunlight, especially in the summer. That baking sun can cause wooden pieces like this to crack. Those cracks can be a place where nails can potentially get caught. So that is something you just want to make sure you're paying attention to. Another thing, if you had a piece of leather that was fully loaded up with all kinds of really fun parrot toy parts, that's one thing. But as your bird, breaks off and tears away all of these things, isn't that fun, Widget? We're pretending that you chewed through that entire piece of birch. He probably could. And you end up with a longer piece of string with just a few pieces at the bottom. What you've created is a weight that, if your bird gets caught in it, could easily get tangled up. So you want to make sure you pay attention to that. You may need to shorten your rope or your chain. It's one of the reasons why I'm a really big fan of things like stainless steel skewers. Stainless steel skewers, no matter how hard your bird tries, no matter how many pieces they rip off, they can't get wrapped up in this. If you use pieces like the wooden blocks that could potentially crack under heat and sunlight, that would be another issue entirely. Thank you for preening my hair. I appreciate that. So you want to make sure you are paying attention to things that your bird could get stuck in, that your bird could potentially eat, things that might be toxic. And you also just want to make sure you're providing things that are appropriate for your bird. For Widget, I have right here, this is a plastic foraging case. I hope you guys can see it okay, that it's not, blinding from the light. This is a great foraging toy. I can unscrew it, load it with food items, load it with shredded paper, and give him the opportunity to play with that. Do you want to play with that? He's like, no, I can see there's nothing in there. I'm not going to do this just for your little show. But obviously, if I had something like an umbrella cockatoo or a macaw, this could be an issue because this is a plastic that they could potentially chew through. So instead, I want to look at the same idea, but find a way to modify that for that animal. They make these foraging cages and things like stainless steel, which are going to be a lot more appropriate for bigger birds. So that's one thing I'm going to encourage you guys. If you see something that you like, even if that toy itself isn't something that you can use, perhaps the idea of that toy is something you can use. You can take it, you can modify it, you can build something on your own that is appropriate for your birds. What I will say is you need to check the safety of your toys, both when you give them to your bird and throughout the use of that bird getting that item. because even if it's something your bird has gotten hundreds of times, it could be something that this one time that wood was just a little bit weaker. Things fell apart just a little bit faster. Things got dirty just a little bit quicker, and you could run into a problem. But by paying attention to the toys, the items you're offering your bird, you help to avoid that. And the benefit is you then get to say that by spending time with your bird, by supervising your bird, by just watching them, not only are you doing things that ensure the health and the well-being of your bird, but you're getting to enjoy them a little bit more. And I think that's a really, really good way to think of it. And it makes it easy to explain to, other people in your home who maybe aren't as excited about your little bird or your big bird if you have one of those. So there's definitely just some things to keep in mind when it comes to providing enrichment items for your animals in a way that is safe. And that is going to hold true of all animals. So I know I was talking about birds because I've got Widget right here to offer his professional advice as a bird. But things like dogs, cats, small mammals, reptiles, all of this is things that you should be considering for those animals as well. You want to make sure the things you are providing are safe. You want to make sure that you're able to supervise them. And you want to make sure that you recognize that the items you can give an individual animal are highly dependent on that individual animal. So make your decisions accordingly. Well, I certainly hope this video has been helpful to help you guys assess the safety of your Parrot toy parts. I'd love to hear from you guys in the comment section. Let me know, what is your favorite toy part? I think other people who are making their Parrot toys would love to see that information as well. If you guys haven't already, you want to make sure that you subscribe to the Hi Redbird YouTube channel. That way you don't miss out on any fun content. And I look forward to seeing you guys next time. Widget, are you going to say bye or are you just going to chew on my shirt? He's just going to chew on my shirt. I do need to say thank you to my Patreon patrons for helping to make these videos possible. You can find out more by visiting Hi Redbird on Patreon or clicking the link in the description section down below if you would like more information. Thanks!